So I guess a lot of people are having problems dealing with the Wraith lately, and saying she's just overpowered and things need to be toned down, when really it comes down to a lot of player stupidity that's causing Wraith to win a lot of these games. So I'm going to give a little bit of a breakdown to you guys, just to say, like, this is what you should be doing, this is what you shouldn't be doing, this is how you can handle a Wraith, things to be aware of that the Wraith has limitations to, some of the changes between her beta release and her full release, just generally stuff like that. So I'm going to be jumping between her, hunters, stats, information, all that sort of thing. So first off, Turtle Rock put out a in demograph of anyone who is level 20 and above within the first week and what they had picked. And it's quite surprising, but 3 of the most picked hunters are actually 3 of the race worst counters. So starting off with that list, I only have 2 of them, if not 3. He's a little iffy. But the first one is Lazarus, who is picked 40% of the time. Again, for anyone who's level 20 or above within the first week. Now the problem with Lazarus, he has a sniper rifle and he is designed to stay back, way back away from something and then turn invisible if a threat comes to him. Now, of course, the Wraith is, easy to tell he's coming right after Lazarus, and Lazarus can then turn invisible, run away. The problem with a lot of Lazaruses that started off was that they really would try to revive the dead so fast. They would go right where the dead person is or downed person and try to get them back up instantly, when they should have been keeping back a little bit. Now they kind of do keep back, but not exactly so much back that the Wraith doesn't figure out they're over there, I'm gonna go right for him. They can see where he is, get rid of him. The other thing is, when she gets to a Lazarus and activates Supernova will always tell where an invisible person is. Just like Aftershock, you turn into a white fuzzy ball on the Kraken and Wraith screen. And the Wraith Supernova is pretty sizable. It is supposed to be the counter to the Trapper's Dome. But she will basically follow this white dot that is around in the dome, and then that will down the Lazarus and get rid of her. And since Lazarus cannot do massive amounts of heals to the entire team, or if not, a hard, solid heal to one person, he really falls short in counteracting the Wraith Supernova's damage along with her Warp Blast. So the other one who is definitely not a good one to pick, and of course he's incredibly popular, he's the most popular for the first week, was actually Abe with 44%. His issue is that he can run around and throw tracking darts and monsters and other wildlife, but you can't see where every single tracking dart is. If you hit the monster with a tracking dart, then it's going to say that this is the tracking dart for the monster. If you hit wildlife and you get too far out of the range of that wildlife, then the tracking dart will not appear for you until you, go back into range for it. The problem, though, is you can hit wildlife, but if a monster knows, of course, it'll tell them that you've eaten a tracking dart, they're not going to be moving. They will basically either play dead, like the whatever you had shot. If you shot a dead target, they're just going to sit there and wait. And if you come back over thinking, well, monster might be over here, you see a still target thing, yeah, it's the dead thing I shot a little while ago. Or you see one that's slightly moving around, it's moving really slow back and forth, and you think nothing of it. Now Abe's got slowing grenades, which they do what they're supposed to do, but for a Wraith, when the Wraith is getting shot a lot, she has a lot of mobility abilities. With her abduction, she can grab Abe, pull him back into her location, even if it's in the slowing grenades, and then just supernova him down. Then she also has the Warp Blast, which she can use to get to Abe out of the range of his grenades. and even if he has to try to throw grenades on himself, he's being juggled in the air or jetpacking away, so he won't have time to throw any more of those slowing grenades down. And of course, when your team is hitting him, her stamina comes back, and then she starts dashing closer and closer to Abe every time, even if he's jetpacking away, flying away, being shielded, healed. She's going to just be able to get right up in his face, and there is nothing stopping her except, she's slow. She isn't locked down in a location by harpoons. And then the other one for the support side is Cabot. He's 43%, but he's actually a little bit iffy on, is he good versus the Wraith or is he bad versus the Wraith? He can dust an area and of course reveal the monster, but he isn't slowing the monster down. He knows this is the monster, but she's not being slowed or anything, and she just has to wait for the trapper to get near, and then the second the trapper tries to throw in a dome, use everything in her arsenal to get out of the dome, and she's completely gone. Now, of course, what makes Cabot alright in that sort of situation is the fact that he can double everyone's damage, which more or less makes up for him not doing damage with the railgun in the first place. Plus, being able to turn everyone invisible is pretty good, so he holds that really interesting yes-no area for the supports. Now, better picks. Ironically, the other two trappers are much better than Abe for dealing with the Wraith. Maggie's probably the better of the two to deal with the Wraith because she can just run around dropping harpoons, and when the Wraith is trying to go right after her, one harpoon gets broken, then another, then another, then another, and it turns into a big irritation. Especially with Abduction. Abduction tries to go out, grab a person, pull them all the way back. Unfortunately, the Wraith can go out, grab Maggie, Daisy, whoever, try to pull them back, but if she runs through a harpoon, it will actually stop Abduction in its tracks. She still can go forward a bit and pull back, but the harpoon does not break, so she will just get pulled to the maximum length the harpoon allows, and then Abduction will basically drop you right there. So it is a very good counter for Abduction to have a Maggie around. But at the same time, with Griffin, if they are in a supernova, just as Maggie can do, he's able to hook the Wraith from the side, the back, which will slow the Wraith down if she's inside her own supernova dome. And if she's going to be slicing somebody up, the last thing you want is everyone getting hit. So if the Wraith is super slow inside of her own dome, people can get out of the Wraith's supernova dome. She then bolts after somebody else, or after the one person she was after in the first place, or Griffin, whoever, and probably will be outside of her own supernova dome, which will lose her own effect. So it's really good to just negate how much damage she would have been able to do inside of supernova. Of course, you can't forget Daisy out of the party. She's going to always know where the Wraith is, where the Wraith goes. After a clone is gone, she's going to be able to find the real one. If the real one is in a dome, she's able to at least say, okay, that was a clone, don't break the dome, let's follow Daisy and see what she does. And if Daisy runs over towards a bush, has a red above her icon, then you know the Wraith is indeed in this dome and we don't need to take it down. We can just start coordinating really quickly and then just start destroying the area before the Wraith has time to realize that we know that she was in there the entire time. As for the medic side, Kyra is one of them. She is actually really good. I had a very great game yesterday with her because she has the massive speed boost. She can run around healing herself. She's then able to heal people who were damaged badly within the supernova dome. If it's a couple people, all three people, one person, she can heal all of them very quickly, and that's going to be a very good advantage for you because it's going to negate so much of Supernova's damage, so much from the damage of Warp Blast. All of that is completely lowered down and it's very helpful. Hank, of course, obviously, if you can coordinate with a Maggie and a Griffin and get this thing bombed, or Val and have the monster slowed down. Even an Abe you can coordinate with. You can then bomb an area and even shield people who are being beat up by Supernova. So it's really good to have at least the assault going in, and then after his shield's down, you know, of course he'll shout it. The Wraith will probably go right after him to try to get rid of him. Next thing you know, Hank puts his shield on and the Wraith has to try to turn after him, but then he can be healed up or revived by the medics, or even turn invisible and just run away because there's no supernova dome anymore. to figure out where he actually is. She has to sniff for his footprints now. And last but not least, probably the medic nobody ever really expected to be useful, and of course, you know, the obvious one because they're the last one, Val. Now, she can put in, of course, the tranquilizer darts, which will reveal the monster and slow the monster, and those darts do not give stamina back to the Wraith, so she will not be able to get free warp dash things just from being shot with tranquilizers, and a few tranquilizers evenly in a row should at least keep her down in place and give them time to get everyone back up on their feet to go then hunt down the Wraith, put her back in the dome, or harpoon her down, whatever you need to do. And of course, last but not least, for at least the grouping and the player side, I'd like to at least note, is teamwork. The problem that a lot of people have is they do not want to coordinate. They want to, generally, they try to split up, and sometimes you get the one person who wants to just tell everybody what to do. And personally, I don't want to be told what I need to do. I don't want to be told how to play a trapper. I don't want to be told how to play the medic. That is not what I need to, listen to for an entire game of saying, medic, you come with me, assault and support, you go somewhere else, go that way guys, come on, put the trap down, you need to be doing this, we need harpoons over here, we need bombs over here, throw over here, medic, what are you doing, come pick me up already. It's annoying to listen to, and it's better to just get suggestions. If you have an idea of where the person might be, you should at least suggest and say, I see some dead bodies over here, maybe if we have this one go this way and that person go that way, we could probably put down some harpoon traps around here and we might catch her. Then people will be more inclined to listen to you, you get more things done, and you do actually win more games. When I talk like that with people, they do respect what is being said and they do respond to that very positively, and we actually coordinate very well with each other. It is so nice to be coordinating with people who want to at least give as much information as they possibly can about what we could be doing rather than what we need to be doing right now. And now for a bunch of side information. So for those people who did not know, Kraken in the alpha actually had a 70% win rate. The Wraith in the beta had a 71.1% win rate. Now when Kraken came, of course, over to the beta, Kraken was at a 50% win rate, and now that they had nerfed a bunch of the Wraith, basically they took the decoy and they increased its cooldown for the ability by 30%. They reduced Supernova's damage by 10%, and because Abduction and Warp Blast were actually not being used and were being a little bit iffy on would they work or would they not work, they were missing a lot of times or not hitting people when they should have, they increased their radius by 0.5 meters. And probably the most unique change out of all of them was the removal of the ability for the Wraith to stay invisible and use their stamina dashes, which also kept the clone alive at the same time. In the beta, it caused a lot of problems because people could not figure out where the Wraith went to, because she could cross a huge section of the map and you would have no idea where she was if you didn't have a daisy with you. So overall, they figured that that was going to be what put the monsters in a 50-50 state between monster and hunters, and turns out they were indeed actually right. They had a 50-50 for level 20s and above who had unlocked all three monsters. So that was really good on their part. But a few other alternative things to at least note about the Wraith. Her clone is incredibly derpy. What it does is when it is thrown out, it tries to immediately dash at the closest target. It does come with the 3 stamina dashes, so if you see it going right at you, it's the clone. Now, the clone will not do any abilities. It will not do Abduct. It will not do Warp Blast. It will mimic Supernova, though, but only when Supernova was activated and it is thrown inside of Supernova. It does it about 50-50. It sometimes wants to do the Supernova, sometimes it doesn't, just like the regular Wraith. But the normal Wraith, when she starts swinging around in Supernova, it will kick in properly and do the multi swing effect and increase damage. But other times the player Wraith will actually do just a few random basic auto attacks. It's a weird system of when it really wants to work or not, but the clone is worse with doing it. The other thing to know with the clone, after it uses the dashes, it doesn't get so close in your face. It kind of floats a little bit, but if you get too close to it, then it's going to do a very big power hit, and people were complaining about that, but that's what's going to happen when you get so close to this thing. It's going to hit you, and it's going to hurt because it doesn't last that long, because it literally is the Wraith pretty much splitting a part of herself off to send at people. And then the other thing is basically Supernova is a bubble, as much as people, kind of realize that, and even I've said throughout this thing a little bit. You are inside of a bubble, so if you get out of that bubble, then the Wraith is not going to have Supernova on you. She can use abduction to grab you and pull you back into the Supernova bubble. That is what they want people to do, but unfortunately they don't really have much chance of that happening. So abduction's usually the ability that people don't really use so much. They use it to when people are at least scattered so much and they're able to grab them from such a great distance away, like from the generator. But you just have to be aware of when the Wraith is going to be using abduction. She will turn herself to the side, her hands in hand claw things, in a certain position, and you'll notice when she's ready to do this. And you just have to be ready to dodge sideways, go up, down, hide behind something, whatever you need to make sure that she isn't going to grab you with abduction. And generally, last but not least, is basically her armor. Now, she has half of the armor as Goliath. Every monster's armor is the same as stage 1. They get more health as they go. So for Wraith, she's got 5, Kraken's got 8, Goliath has 10. And health-wise, it's basically between 4 to 8 for the Wraith and 5 to 10 for Goliath. Now, the health isn't so different between Wraith and Goliath, Goliath being the tankiest of them all so far before Behemoth comes out. The thing to really notice is she has half of the armor of Goliath. If you can get to a Wraith, catch her, and then just start ripping through that armor and then hitting some of her health, it's going to hurt her much more than it will a Goliath in the long run, because she only has that 5 armor to recover. She doesn't have 10 armor bars to recover. She also has a little less health than everyone else. So when she gets hurt in health, it's going to hurt. She's going to have to try to find the health regeneration buff if she possibly can. But if not, finding her, getting rid of her health early, that's all going to make a huge impact. Now I guess the only other real thing I can say is just don't shoot the Wraith at such a great distance. If she's going to run, just, be aware of where she's going to go. Try to get tranquilizers and darts and dust on her, whatever you can. Try to cut her off. Make sure she uses all of her stamina to try to get away from people, and then have your trapper get her, or try to get her in some sort of a weakened state. With slows, harpoons, anything you possibly can before you try to dome her. Be right on top of her. Have her try to go right after you with, if you're the trapper, with Warp Blast. So she only has 3 dashes, and knowing it, she'll probably use a dash or 2 to try to get to you first before Warp Blast, to try to, I'm going to get the trapper and then I'm going to escape. But when you're blasted up into the air, you throw your dome, and even if she tries running, she's caught right in there, and your teammate is a short bit right behind you. So yeah, it's just a little bit of being aware that she's gonna move quick. She's quick to move, but she doesn't get the most distance. And ironically, Goliath actually gets more distance than the Wraith, for people who don't realize that. Warp Blast can basically be the equivalent of Goliath's charging ability. But then, of course, Goliath has his Leap Smash on top of his 3 dashes, and the Wraith does not have she doesn't come with a second escape. She has abduction, but she can go out, which could be out of the dome, but again, when you pull back, you're coming right back into the dome. So she's the fastest, but she doesn't get the most range, and that's the thing to keep in mind. You have to make sure she's going to burn everything. And to do that, get out of there, get people really close to her, don't shoot her. You just have to catch her off guard. That's what you really want to do. You want her to run and then run right into your trapper. You want to pick trappers who are going to be ready for this. You're going to want to pick people who are able to make sure she's slowed, stuck, whatever in this thing. Just be aware of, how the decoy works, destroy the decoy, all that sort of stuff, and, her health. You just really got to manage a lot of this stuff. And when you can do that, you will be able to get rid of Wraith, you will be able to use that teamwork to your advantage, and you will not have any problems with a monster who's really not as overpowered as you think.